morning, and welcome to Morning Movie News, where I promised you an all-viewer question episode, and since I couldn't get to it on Wednesday because of holiday shenanigans, you're gonna get it today. So I've picked 4 of your questions. I think I have a good sampling here. Some are business questions, some are questions about Hollywood talent, and I think there should be something for everyone. And thank you again for everyone who asked a question. There is still a question answered every day on Morning Movie News, so keep trying. All right, so the first one, I like this one a lot, comes from Maybe I'm Mental. That's a great name. Maybe I'm Mental says, question, Grace, greetings from Sydney. If you're taking and giving off taking more viewer questions, lots of emojis here, can you please tell me about this recent occurrence of multiple production companies behind a single movie? Really good use of emojis. All right, I watched Bad Moms a couple of weeks ago, and it had 4 different production companies. And then Out of the Shadows had a bunch, like 7 different production companies, and Hacksaw Ridge has 9. I looked it up. Hacksaw Ridge does have 9. That's insane. So Maybe I Mental says it used to be the film studio and a production company, 2 at most. But now there's like 78 seconds of logos. What is behind this change? And Maybe I Mental says work ethic, but I think it's the business plan. My internet is running low, but I still have enough to watch Morning Movie News, and it would be a real happy emoji if you responded to me. Thanks for using your last little bit of internet to watch Morning Movie News. I know it takes up a lot of internet. All right, so great question. I'm going to go with Bad Moms because it has the least amount of production companies to go over for the sake of time. But basically, you've done the first step, Maybe I'm Mental, and that's you've recognized the logos. And I would really encourage anyone who's serious about following the movie industry or someday participating in the movie industry to write down the logos or remember them, or you can they list them on IMDb. If you go to IMDb, for any movie and you scroll down to company credits, you can click on it and they'll give you the name of the production companies listed. So you can do your research that way. So you don't have to write stuff down during a movie and annoy your fellow moviegoers with the light on your phone. Because who carries around a writing utensil and paper anymore? But anyway, I would urge you to research each production company so not only that you know who you're dealing with, but if perhaps someday you would like to deal with a production company, you'll know who your choices are. All right, so Bad Moms. I couldn't find 4 production companies. I could find a distributor and then 3 production companies. So if there was a 4th one, my guess would be it would be a film financier. For instance, whenever you watch a Warner Brothers movie, or I'd say 99% of them, you'll see the Rat Pack logo in front of it. And that's because Brett Ratner has found a second career as a film financier. And he finances almost all of, he and his company finance almost all of Warner Brothers' slate of films. For instance, Relativity, before they became, a production company themselves and a distributor, they used to be the film financier company for Universal, which is why Universal was so upset when they did their own Snow White movie to compete with Universal's, because they felt it was a conflict of interest. So there are companies in Hollywood that purely finance movies. That's all they do. They just finance them. The lines in Hollywood get blurred very much so. So a lot of film finance companies will eventually become producers and distributors, as Relativity did. But some companies only finance films, and a lot of times that's one of the logos you're seeing. But let's look into the ones that are actually credited on IMDb for Bad Moms. So there's Styx Entertainment, which is the distributor, one of the newest distributors on the block, trying to be a new Lionsgate. They have mixed results so far, but they are doing the best out of the group. Open Road also doing pretty well, but I think Styx is pulling ahead of them with some commercial successes, one of them being Bad Moms. But then Hui Brothers, or Hawaii Brothers Pictures, that's from China, and they are not only a financier, they are also a financier of Styx Entertainment, but they're also somebody who is going to co-produce the films with Styx. They're very interested in getting into the business of Hollywood, and this was their entry point. They decided, instead of starting their own company, to kind of partner up and piggyback on someone else's efforts, and they chose Styx Entertainment. And Styx Entertainment got an influx of cash, and they also got a distribution window into China, because Hui Brothers can distribute movies in China, and that's of course very important to movie success these days. And they have a first look at the Styx Entertainment lineup as to what they would like to distribute in China. But you would think they'd want to distribute everything, and likely do, because they also co-produce the films. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons they want to co-produce, to make sure that the films have the quality they're looking for, because of course this is their reputation in their homeland, China, where, that's of course they do their primary business. So that's why you see the Huai Brothers Pictures logo in front of not only Bad Moms, but every Styx Entertainment, or like 99% of Styx Entertainment's movies. Then there are two other production companies that are associated. You see Bill Block Media and Suzanne Todd Productions. And those are there because Bill Block and Suzanne Todd are producers of the film. Suzanne Todd's actually a very big name in Hollywood. She's produced a lot of movies. Bill Block, not too familiar with him, but clearly he has his own production company. So a lot of times producers, some producers are, like for instance, Scott Rudin is a very prolific producer, but you'll never see his logo in front of a movie, interestingly enough. But they want to get their name up there, so you'll see the production shingles logo go up in front of the movie. They just want the credit. And also the PGA, by the way, this is an interesting news story, is getting really, really sticky about who qualifies as an actual producer on a movie, because they see actors and other people putting their name on as a producer. It's kind of like handing them out like candy to people, and so the PGA feels we have to limit who actually gets producing credit on a film to those who actually produced the movie, not just got a producing credit. So producers are having to prove themselves to the Producers Guild, and one such individual is a guy who's a producer on the 50 Shades movies, and the Producers Guild tried to take him off of the credits there, and he got very angry. He fought it. He won, actually. He got a number of people to write in and say he did help produce the movie, but he's now continuing the good fight for others, he says, or for more headlines. We'll see. But anyway, perhaps putting their production logos in front of the movie is a good way to prove to the Producers Guild that yes, they are an active producer on that film. So those are the names, those are the logos that go in front. So for those of you, just to recap, it's usually the distributor, anyone who's financing the film, anyone who's a producer, like a legit producer on the movie, and then also sometimes, especially if films come out of the UK or Australia, you'll see a logo sometimes for the government or the film commission of the country that are very heavily involved in those films as well. But really, really great, maybe, Mental, that you're paying attention to that. It's a great first step to becoming very business savvy. All right, so the second question of the day, I love this one. This is from Nivarad, and Nivarad says, Grace, who do you think is the most successful, in your opinion, best mainstream black actress out there? I think Viola Davis. I think so too, which is so exciting because Viola Davis is 51 and a very dark-skinned actress, and that is just great. That because it's been typically light-skinned actresses that have succeeded in Hollywood, and also, of course, younger actresses. So to see Viola Davis at the top of her game at 51 and really getting really dynamic roles, and again, as a dark-skinned actress, I think is incredibly exciting. You would think it would be Lupita Nyong'o, but her career is really not working out. She's still got, it ain't over till it's over, but she's definitely having a rough point. Lupita Nyong'o should think of Taraji P. Henson as inspiration, because she had a very rough time after being nominated. She didn't win, though, for Benjamin Button, but she's turned around, and we're going to talk about her in just a second. But anyway, I would say before Viola Davis, it was Halle Berry was the biggest name of black actresses in Hollywood. But Viola Davis is certainly having a moment. She was well known, of course, for many years as a very respected actress, but I think that How to Get Away with Murder, I think, was like the first domino. Shonda Rhimes really put her in a position to be somewhat more mainstream. As Aniva Rad pointed out, that's very important. So she got the Amanda Waller gig, which she really ran with it, as we knew she would. Hugely popular. I loved her in that movie, Suicide Squad. She's in the upcoming Fences film. I think that's going to be, she might get her Oscar. She's up in the upcoming Widows action movie, which I think is very exciting. That's going to be kind of like an Ocean's 11 type film to compete with Ocean's 8, the all-female Ocean's 11. And then also, interestingly, I was seeing what she was up to for this question, and it seems she's attached to an untitled Harriet Tubman film, which I think would be amazing. And just when you hear Viola Davis as Harriet Tubman, you're like, yes, please. Maybe that was rushed into development when they decided to put Harriet Tubman on the currency. I don't know if that's guaranteed yet or when that's going to take place, but that'd be pretty awesome. Go see the Harriet Tubman film, paying for it with a Tubman. All right, so I also made a list of some other up-and-coming actresses just to see, because, just one, really, Viola Davis, and, yes, I think it's not as strong as we would like. There aren't as many strong names as we would like, but I think there are a lot of up-and-comers, right? So I have Taraji P. Henson down here. I'm very excited for her in Hidden Figures, but I think where she runs into trouble is that the show that put her on the map, and that's Empire. I think that it's very hard to distinguish between a television star and a movie person. Well, I think especially because it's on a network. It's on, it's on Fox. It's not on a cable. It's she's not on an HBO show or an FX show or a Showtime show. She's on Fox, and it's such a bigger than life caricature that I think she's certainly very successful, and she's extremely successful. Taraji P. Henson is quite wealthy, and she ain't afraid to tell you how wealthy she is. If you've ever read, there was a Vanity Fair interview with her, and wow, she has a sink installed in her closet because she doesn't like to wash her hair in the shower in her walk-in closet. It's crazy. So I'm like, wow, Taraji P. Henson, you're not afraid to live big. But she's very successful. She's very wealthy. But I think for her to really jump to being the movie star, perhaps that she wants to be, she might have to someday leave Empire. Speaking of TV, though, I think Tracee Ellis Ross is becoming a huge talent, also deservedly so. I'm a big fan of her on Blackish. Whoopi Goldberg, back in the day, though, she was a really big name. I think many people forget that. But also Whitney Houston. Everybody talks about Beyonce today. Whitney Houston did it first. And, of course, she starred in The Bodyguard. Huge hit, not only as a soundtrack, but as a movie. And Beyonce, though, and I'm sure it annoys Beyonce, hasn't been able to transition to... She doesn't have that big film like Whitney Houston did. She's tried a couple of times, but it hasn't worked out. And I think it hasn't worked out to such a degree that I don't see Beyonce really trying anymore. Maybe someday she'll go back to it. Maybe if Lady Gaga succeeds with A Star Is Born, Beyonce will be like, I gotta get back in there. But I think that Whitney Houston and Beyonce are a good comparison. I think Beyonce should embrace it and look for a Bodyguard-style project sometimes we don't like formulaism in Hollywood. We want it to evolve and morph and do better, but sometimes it's smart to look back and see what worked and realize it worked for a reason. All right, so that's the second question of the day. Great question. The third question of the day, I love this one too, I love all of them, that's why I picked them obviously. This comes from Solomon Dow, a frequent BTT commenter, and Solomon says, question, Grace, I have a question. Diversity is always a main topic on your channel. I think it's important, and it got me thinking. Tyler Perry actively casts black leads. Well, Tyler Perry I think Tyler Perry makes an effort to cast some white characters, but he does largely black films. And maybe Tyler Perry would want to move away from that if he wants to move away from that image, because we know he does. But anyway, Solomon Dow continues saying, Robert Rodriguez actively casts Hispanic leads in their films, but I don't see the same being done by top Asian directors. Interesting. We're going to circle back to Tyler Perry and Robert Rodriguez in a minute. But Solomon Dow says, do you think that Justin Lin and James Wan, and I would also add John Chu, should make more of an effort to work with casting directors to cast great upcoming Asian talent, or do you think that they shouldn't make it their responsibility? Thanks for such awesome and educational content. I really appreciate it as an aspiring screenwriter. Good luck to you, Solomon. Break a leg. All right. Or break a finger, I guess, in this case. But anyway, I think that initially you probably didn't see Justin Lin and James Wan and John Chu, although Justin Lin did get on the map with, Better Luck Tomorrow, an Asian film, entirely Asian talent cast. And that's one, and you might remember Han from the Fast and Furious films. He did bring him over from that, and, that was a popular character. But then he killed him. But anyway, which was so sad. Well, actually, he didn't, he did do, it was very sad that he died. And so Justin Lin did make all those other films prequels so that Han could stick around for some time. But anyway, I loved Han. But anyway, so you have Justin Lin, James Wan, and John Chu. I think to begin with, they didn't want to have the image that Tyler Perry and Robert Rodriguez do, and that they largely make only black and largely Latino-based films, right? Because then it seems it's only made for those audiences. And Justin Lin, James Wan, the most successful, and John Chu have all become really strong mainstream directors. I don't know how John Chu stays in there. A lot of his films are really weak, but he continues to get work. He must be great in a room. What that means, if you've never heard that phrase before, great in a room means you do a really good job in the pitch meeting to sell yourself or your movie. And there are people who are great in a room, and that's why they have careers even when they shouldn't. But I would say that now that Justin Lin, James Wan, and John Chu are so successful, I think it would be nice for them to put some Asian talent in just one role in the movie. James Wan sometimes does, sometimes a member of the paranormal team will be Asian. But I think they should step up their game a little bit, particularly because there's a big movement, thanks to George Takei, to cast Asian talent in projects. Westworld, it's like this season, there's so much opportunity for Asian talent. It's amazing. And Michelle Yeoh was just cast as the new lead in the Star Trek series for CBS that they're trying to break away from the network stigma and do like a cable quality level show, which is very exciting. And so Michelle Yeoh got that part, and I wouldn't be surprised if she got it because of the strong push led by George Takei. So it's very interesting. It's really exciting to see. I've never seen change happen so quickly. It's almost, for Hollywood, it's overnight since the big brouhaha over the Oscars joke that Chris Rock made about Asians. And it's just really amazing. Also, I loved what Alan Yang from Master of None said in his acceptance speech at the Emmys. I thought that was excellent, saying there are as many Asian Americans as there are Italian Americans, but yet you can see the inequality in representation in entertainment. And so, very, very cool. But yes, I agree with you, Solomon Dow. I can see why Justin Lin, James Wan, and John Chu didn't do it initially, but now I do think it would be nice for them to just, and I'm not saying all the actors, I think that would be a mistake, but I think that, a couple, like at least one, just one, or even they could go, just actually those with Justin Lin, Fast and Furious, but there's not a lot of diversity overall in James Wan's films, interestingly enough. So we'll see. Okay, all right, so I think that's a great suggestion, and I hope somebody mentions it to them. All right, tweet them this video. All right, so finally, this is from Rob Turner, also Rob tweets me a lot. Hello, Rob. So we talk a lot on Twitter. So Rob says, what do you think is the difference between being a critic and someone casually watching a film? Well, this varies for different people. Like, I've seen critics, and I'm sure you have too, or maybe you are a critic who does this, or an aspiring critic, but they'll take notes during a movie. I don't do that. I like to focus specifically on the movie. But I think, so what's the difference between being a critic and someone casually watching a film? Well, I think to be a successful critic, it's important to be aware of the person and the needs of the person who just casually watches the film. But I think someone who casually watches a film, there's no business element to it. Did you have a good time or did you not, right? You don't have to worry about anything else. Was it worth your money, and did you have a fun time at the movies? That's all that matters, and that's all that should matter. But when you're reviewing a film, I can tell you from experience, and again, this varies from person to person, with great power comes great responsibility, but not everybody feels that way. But I think when you're reviewing a film, you have to think about not only is it entertaining, is it fun, is it good, but how does it stack up? Does it meet everything it needs to do from a business perspective? How does it stack up to the other movies in the franchise, if it's a franchise film? How does it stack up to the other movies of the year? Because that's, you're trying to see where it stands in the scope of not only the year, but in film itself, right? And so I think you have to categorize those movies. And I think that some critics will, feel that if a film isn't one for the ages, it's garbage. I don't think that's fair. So I think but I think it's important still to distinguish what's going on there, right? And also what's interesting to me is that sometimes a casual viewer will be like, oh, it's the best movie ever made, right? Because there's no responsibility there to, there's no accountability also for like, oh, I love this movie, it's the best movie ever made. Nor should there be. I want to emphasize that. It's, did you have a good time? And in that moment in time, that is the best movie you ever saw. But I think when you're, it's almost like there's a responsibility to catalog these and to protect the industry and the medium and the art of it. And so that's why with something like Moana, I was like, I think Moana is actually a great example of this. I think Moana is a great casual film. And I think that's why it's so successful. And that's why it did so well over Thanksgiving weekend, because it's something, and Disney said this. They said, this is a film when people are with their family and you need something that appeals to a wide scope of ages and genders. Disney's an easy choice because it's pleasant and everyone's going to have a good time. And that's what I think Moana is. But is it a Zootopia? No. And I said that. And I said that I don't think it's fair to make the two seem equal. From a critic standpoint, see, this is a perfect example, because then what does that do to Zootopia? Then it really, I think, penalizes those filmmakers for making the extra effort. And at Moana, they did not make the extra effort. I think that film is not as ambitious as Zootopia is. It's not as well done. It's kind of like, like grading movies. Like, if everyone gets an A, then what's the point of an A? An A no longer becomes relevant. So I guess that's the best way to boil it down. A casual moviegoer has two ways to grade something, a pass or a fail, right? And I think a critic has the whole grading spectrum, right? Is this like, and I'm including like the pluses and the minuses. So is this an A plus? Is it an A? Is it an A minus? Is it a B plus? You have to think of it in that spectrum instead. So I hope that's helpful, Rob. I hope that's helpful to everyone. I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts on that. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on all these questions today. And thank you everybody again who asked. So I really like morning movie news, and I'm trying to get up early, as you can see, so it gets out on time. All right, so thank you so much for tuning in. Write your thoughts down below, any questions that you might have, and you can check out some more episodes right now.